Today I want to present to you two books that you may not know about except if you are dealing with that field of Igbo studies. And the person that wrote those books was a British. He was George Thomas Basden. He was born on 31st October 1873, and he died on the 30th of December 1944. He was educated at Durham University and ordained as a priest of the Anglican Church in 1901. And he was sent to Igboland by the Church Missionary Society. That was an evangelical Anglican society in charge of evangelization. And he stayed in Igboland from 1900 to 1935. And he stayed in that country. It was not on five-star hotel. Just realize, as you put this back into context, that he was using very, very basic accommodation. He didn't know Igbo. He just tried to learn a bit of Igbo before he went. But at that time, Igbo was not written. It was not organized. There was no proper grammar of Igbo. And so he went really with very little to help himself. And the first of these two books is Among the Ibos of Nigeria by G.T. Basden. That one was published initially in 1921 and reprinted in 1966. That book is a treasure trove of many, many topics. If you look at the content list, first of all, he describes his travel to the Igbo country, and he even took pictures and videos actually, so we could see some of them. There's a lot that has been stored in archives here and there. And then he describes the way he arrived, and then he describes the Igbo country, not only the landscape, the agriculture, the way villages and hamlets were constructed. There's a lot in it that many people have not gone into. And then later on, he studies the Igbo village and the way it is organized, the politics, the local politics. And then he talks about child life, describes how children are born, the way they are cleaned after birth, the rules and regulations concerning childbirth, the way women are treated, the way the men and women function in the society. Then he talks about child life, what were the children doing, the way they played together, whether they were toys or no toys, and all these things, and the discipline of children. And then he talks about courtship and marriage, describing how girls come to know their future husbands, the way they are educated towards marriage, the way the marriage comes about, whether there is a courtship or not, whether how the bride price, all these details. And then he talks about the unit, husband, wife, or wife's children. He talks a lot about polygamy and describes what happens in those households. Then he talks about the Igbo men and how they spend their days, the occupations of the day, farmland, business, the market, how women go to the market and buy and sell, how the farm is divided between men and women, the way children are implicated in household chores. Then he talks about polygamy and slavery, and at that point they were house slaves, and he describes how they fare, and then he talks about death and burial rites, including the second burial, and then he talks about sports and pastimes, all the different sports, including wrestling and different sports. Then he goes about the yam. There's a whole chapter about yam cultivation, the significance of yam in the society. Then he talks about palm fronds and palm trees, the way they are used. Then arts and crafts, talks about the different arts that people are using, like making baskets, making mats. Then it talks about music and all the musical instruments, trade and currency, war and weapons, some aspects of religion, sacrifice, and the meaning of sacrifice in Igbo society, something that is very, very important that has not been really studied after. There is only one remarkable book by Cardinal Arenze about sacrifice in Igboland. And then he talks about the secret societies, the Mao, the chiefs and their orders, etiquette, like not using left hand. Then he quotes some proverbs, tells some tales, and there is even a last chapter about the incursion of Islam into Igboland. And one thing that is remarkable about that book is that, put into context, like I said, there was no official dictionary of Igbo at all. And so, of course, he writes Igbo the way he could understand it, the way he hears. Like, for example, this consonant, double consonants like ba or wa were unknown in English. So he had to try and write what he heard. It's like we know, it's well known that at that time missionaries were writing Igbo like IBO instead of IGBO. But that is normal because there was nothing like a proper regulation about Igbo. And we remember that Igbo language was only officially presented as standard in 1961, and that was written 1921. And so, in fact, the way he quotes lots and lots of Igbo words is remarkable in itself. Another thing that is very important to note about that book is that everything that is written in it is accurate. And I am an Igbo person by marriage. I stayed in Nigeria for 25 years, and I know that at the time I was there, many of these customs that he's describing, including the way to rear children, was still exact. Just the way. And of course, there are lots of things nowadays that would shock maybe somebody, because at the time he was writing as a man of his days, of his time, that thought that the Africans were not really that, say, intelligent. But at the same time, although he's sometimes have been passing comments to that effect, you find out that the rest of the book is really appreciating the skills, the intelligence, the ways of these people, including like discussing village affairs and the public debates and comparing it to Hyde Park Corner in London, which is quite interesting. Yeah. So I would say that these books, this one and the other one that we're going to look at in another video, are basics, the best way to know Igboland at the time, because at that time Ibos had not studied enough to be writing books about themselves and their ways, and this is a precious archive. So I encourage you to value it the way it should be valued.